love orchids. They're one of my favorite flowers. They're very difficult though to not kill, especially if you're codependent like me and you like to overcare things and suffocate them with love. And you can easily suffocate an orchid. Orchids don't need a lot of nurturing. They only need water every 7 to 10 days. But they do have some specific requirements that a lot of people are not aware of. And for me, they're a therapeutic lesson because I think a lot of people are like orchids. An orchid needs to be placed in a southeastern window, not direct light, but an indirect light. Something where they can get the morning sun on them, but not have heavy, intense sunlight throughout the day. And I think people are a lot like that too. They need to be put in positions and in situations where they survive and they thrive. And so you have to be aware of their environment and their surroundings. So again, with people, especially as a therapist, I think it's important for me to have people check their environment and their surroundings and make sure that they're getting the care that they need and the validation and the attention that they need, but they're not flooded. I like to take them out of their pot. Their roots are tightly compressed on the inside of this plastic with moss and wood chips and other things. And so it's important to be sensitive to how much love and how much nurturing people need, not to overflood them. So I take my orchid out and I drain it completely under the water, like run it completely, soak all the roots one time every about 10 days. But the way I know if it needs it, I'll let you stick your finger in there and just check it. If it's dry, then it needs love, it needs water. The same with people. Like sometimes you pull them out and you're like, oh, well, I really wanted to just do this for them and I really wanted to take care of them and I really wanted to love on them, but they might not need it. They might still be saturated. And so you don't want to enable people and overlove on them. So the other beautiful thing about orchids is you can see this one has no flowers on it right now. And if I was a non-savvy gardener here, I would look at it and go, oh my gosh, it's not happy. It doesn't have flowers. It must be sad. I should water it some more. Maybe I should repot it. Maybe I should stuff it with more, moss. And I should care about this. But if you pull it out of its container, you can see the beautiful undergrowth. Look at all of those deep roots. And those are this is a super healthy orchid. I mean, look at it, all the deep, deep roots. A lot of times orchids when they're not producing foliage, when they're not producing flowers and just, like you can see my orchid back here is just beautiful flowers, they're growing deep. And people are like that too. Sometimes we feel like our life is not in the glamour or in the highlight and we don't see a lot of progress and we can't see the beautiful flowers shining in our own life. But if we stop and look, it was during those times of our life that we were doing our deepest growth. We were resting and we were taking care of ourselves and we were nurturing and cultivating those deep relationships inside of us. And the other thing I check for is at the bottom of the pot is also dry. Because if you have stagnant water and you're just sitting in stagnant water constantly, you can become moldy and sedentary and get sick just from sitting inside just the same stagnant, not moving moisture. And that's the same with people too. I mean, if you are not growing in your life and you're sitting in the same stagnant situation and your relationships are not challenging you to grow and to really dig as deep as you know you're capable of, then you should really stop and check how your drainage is going. Do you have a way of removing, that the toxic or the unhealthy from your life? And for orchids, that's important because, that's what poisons them. And I think for women too, that we can a lot of times we poison ourselves with our relationships. We cling and hold on to people. We hold on to things that are not healthy for us. We attach ourselves to concepts and ideas that just really are toxic for us. And if we stay there too long, if we enmesh ourselves in that and we don't move through that, we can really poison the gift that we have for ourselves. Orchids are incredible. When they bloom, they are glorious, and they hold their blooms for like longer than any flower I have or that I know of. But they spend most of their year looking like this. Most of the time they're doing that deep undergrowth, but then they'll bloom and they'll just be radiant and beautiful. And I know so many women in my own life and in therapy who are just like orchids. With the right nutrients, the right sunlight, the right support, they are just glorious.